sports fans are so freaking passionate. And it's not like if you go to Amazon and you buy toilet paper and something goes wrong in the order, it's toilet paper, okay?
Right.
You know, you go to Fanatics and let's say if we get 99.9% of orders perfect and 0.01 go wrong, that's for us 70,000 orders or, 150,000 items in a year. And with that math, those fans can be loud, but they just make you better. I mean, I always say, anytime there's noise, figure out whether it's right or wrong. A lot of times it's wrong, but if it's right, then use it to make your company better. And we always use these as rallying calls.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of SBJ's On Stage. I'm your host, Taylor Bloom. Today's conversation is with Michael Rubin, CEO and Chairman of Fanatics, one of the most influential companies in global sports today. This interview took place on April 16th, 2024 at the CAA World Congress of Sports in Los Angeles. Michael was joined by SBJ's publisher and executive editor, Abe Madkour, on stage. Rubin doesn't hold back. He talks about Fanatics' rapid growth, what it takes to build the world's leading digital sports platform, and the lessons learned from challenges along the way, including the baseball uniform issues that were front-page news at the time of this conversation. It's an interesting, unfiltered glimpse into the mind of a builder whose vision continues to reshape the business of sports. Let's go on stage.
Michael, a lot of converse. Good to see you. Thank you for being here.
Good to see you.
Yeah, a lot of questions this morning at a discussion about women's sports. Caitlin Clark, #1 pick at the W. Heard she already broke some records there for Fanatics.
Yeah, I was amazed. This morning when I looked at the numbers, she was the best draft night athlete in the history of Fanatics. So if you look at like Victor this year, who huge expectations around, she beat him.
Really?
You look at Bryson CJ last year, she beat him. She's broke every record for most sales on draft day ever in the history of Fanatics.
That's a great sign.
It's a great sign.
Love to see that. And it's a better story for Fanatics, and you've been in the news for a lot of the interesting reasons. Maybe not the wrong reasons, but
no, some wrong reasons.
Yeah, you've been blamed for a lot of shit lately.
You know, it goes with the territory.
Why?
You tell me.
Well, I mean, is it deserved?
Look, anytime, and obviously I think everyone's following, but certainly the last 2 months with the noise around the New Jersey
right.
Has not been, it has been, a difficult situation. I think anytime a fan is not happy, it actually pains me to my body. We're going to do 70 million consumer transactions this year between offline and online. Consumer, not wholesale, consumer transactions. That's just in the merchandise business, commerce that you're talking about. And anytime a fan is not happy, I think we've lost. So we need to do everything to make fans happy in everything we do.
But this was players also not being happy.
Definitely. Look, I mean, players had feedback about the size of the letters, about the pants not being tailored anymore, and there's a lot of noise about it. I mean, we, as everyone I think knows by now, we've been making those jerseys since 2005. We've owned the company since 2017. We made them we made them in partnership with Nike since 2020, and it's gone great. Look, redesigns are tough. Nike redesigned the jersey, and some of the feedback hasn't been great.
But to the baseball, baseball did come out and say Fanatics had executed perfectly in terms of the execution of the manufacturing, and Nike has to reassess. Did you feel vindicated at all by that?
No, not at all. I mean, from my perspective, anytime we do anything, we're any part of anything where a player's not happy, a fan's not happy, we're losing. So no, it doesn't, to me, I just want to figure out how to win in everything we do. And, our job is to, make sure that players and, fans are happy. So no, there's no.
But to close the loop, Fanatics was not seen as doing anything wrong.
I agree with that, but it's still, by everyone in this room, yes, by, fans who may buy a jersey and said, they don't like something about it, we're still losing.
Do you guys have a perception problem among fans?
I don't think so. Look, here's what I'd say, and I was just talking about this in the back room. I think our relationship with fans overall is great. That said, sports fans are so freaking passionate, and it's not like if you go to Amazon and you buy toilet paper and something goes wrong in the order, it's toilet paper, okay?
Right.
You go to Fanatics and let's say if we get 99.9% of orders perfect and 0.01 go wrong, that's for us 70,000 orders or 150,000 items in a year. And with that math, those fans can be loud, but they just make you better. I mean, I always say, anytime there's noise, figure out whether it's right or wrong. A lot of times it's wrong, but if it's right, then use it to make your company better. And we always use these as rallying calls.
Did it frustrate you, though, that you were getting criticized for a problem not of your making?
Great question. You sound like if I had a therapist, you could do a great job.
We can start. I can charge you.
Thank you. What's the rate here? Look, it's to me the frustrating point is that anytime we're making there's obviously been a lot of noise from players. There's been a lot of noise from fans. That's what hurts me. It's not that even if we did nothing wrong, it doesn't make a difference because we're not making fans happy, and that's our job. And I think, one of the things we really have religion about at Fanatics is everything we do needs to make it better for the fan. And if we don't hit that, then we're failing. Okay? And that's kind of like we need to ask ourselves in every decision we make, and we're now pushing this through our 22,000 employees, is this going to make it better for the fan? And if the answer is no, we shouldn't do it. We're failing.
And the perception of the growth of the company over the last 5, 6, 7 years, you and I have been sitting down together doing these, is now you are easily number one, and so you're easily criticized, or you're easily one to be criticized.
Yeah, look, that doesn't bother me at all. I mean, I say this to my, people in my family all the time. Don't put yourself out there if you can't take the heat. And so, for a lot of happy people, there could be people that give you a hard time. But I think you always find negativity is much louder than positivity, and we just try to focus on keeping better in everything we do. It truly doesn't bother me unless someone's right about what they're saying. If they're right about what they're saying, I want to use that to make us better. Right.
Let's move on. Okay, other merchandise stories that we're talking about. With NHL, you're going to unveil that line, correct?
Yes. Well, it's not a line. We're taking over the jersey, which we could not be more excited about. And we actually debated, should we do it around draft or should we do it around when the jersey hits retail? We're actually doing it around draft because we want to pull that moment forward.
In June?
In June, end of June, we'll be launching the new Fanatics jersey, and I could not be more excited. What is great is we've been working with the players for years. We've been working with the equipment managers for years, and the feedback has been unanimously phenomenal. It's either been like, hey, this feels in a lot of ways like what we have, and that's great, or the things you did to improve it make it that much better, but the feedback's been universally great.
And that will be a Fanatics flag on those sweaters?
That's right.
Okay, and so then you also got into the college space pretty recently with Travis Scott. You did, I think, a 3-college tour. That line is focused on what?
Yeah, so a lot of people don't understand Travis is important to culture. I would say he's probably the most important commercial person in culture today. When I say commercial, there's people that, could be really culturally interesting, but more complicated to work with. Travis is incredible. He's obviously a big part of what Nike does, and we have such a great overall partnership with Nike. And Travis came to me and said, "Look, I want to. I'm such a sports fan. I'm a huge Astros fan. I'm a huge Rockets fan. I'm huge. I just love sports. I want to make college apparel with you." And so we partnered between Mitchell & Ness, which we own, between Lids that we own, and with Travis, and we sold that merchandise only at college bookstores and Fanatics and CactusJack.com, and the results were spectacular.
And you survived the 3-college tour?
Well, Travis and I are unbreakable. So I'd say we were tested. A bunch of people from our team said, you can't be serious. You want to start at LSU at 10:30 in the night before.
Texas?
No, we were at LSU.
LSU, and then...
Yeah, we started at 10:30 to meet the football team. We then went to the bookstore at midnight where there were thousands of people in line. We then flew to Texas, got there at 5 a.m. We then did Texas at 8 a.m. and then went off to USC. I will say the most interesting thing was having to wake Travis up that morning because the security said, yeah, we'll wake him. Then they said, no, why don't you go do that? I'm like, no, I want you guys to do that. So I just put one of the songs on very loud, woke him up, and he was right back at it.
So those are the two areas in the merchandise side. You and I have talked a lot about, we talked last year about women's sports in terms of that being a larger share. I'm already getting a bunch of questions such as, when are you going to make a Caitlin Clark Iowa and Indiana jerseys available in toddler sizes. So you have to, there's a growing interest and need and demand for women's sports.
Yes, so first off, we actually knew how big and important she'd be last night. It was kind of obvious. It was like an IQ test. So we worked to have jerseys available that you wouldn't normally have on draft day, because normally you don't know exactly what's going to happen in the draft, and the jerseys come a few weeks later. We actually had product available last night, sold that out quickly, and then just went to the normal way draft works. And approximate spoken, we don't make the kids' jerseys ourselves. We have to count on our suppliers to bring that to us, and obviously the team's going to push to get that in as quickly as possible.
But you see that as a big growth vertical.
Yeah, look, the amazing thing, because we're still talking about, our merchandise business that we call Fanatics Commerce, that business was $250 million when I sold my company to eBay and bought it back in 2011. That division this year is $6.3 billion.
6.3.
Yeah, just that division, okay? And we think we can get that to $15 billion, within the next decade. And what's interesting is what got us from 250 million to 6.3 billion isn't what's going to get us from 6.3 billion to $15 billion. When I think about how to get to $15 billion, I think about just being incredible product and not doing more of the same, but bringing in outside and new and differentiated things to grow the category.
Right.
And I think I'd be great at storytelling. What was so great about what we did with, Travis Scott and Cactus Jack last week was great product, great storytelling, consumer resonated, stuff flying off the shelves, okay? And I think we have so many different opportunities to do. I was just talking about, we launched WWE belts last year. They'd never had them in outside of WWE, and now we launched them in the NFL and Major League Baseball and NBA. They're smoking, so it's like our job is to bring new differentiated products in and be great storytellers. And then I think from a consumer experience perspective, we used to live in the 99% land. And what the 99% land meant was if you get it 99% right, that's great. 99% is not good enough.
Not good enough.
Sports fans are the most passionate, best fans in the world. And if you fuck something up, they are going to tell you, okay? And so our job is to be perfect. And by the way, if we're not perfect, we better fix it and become perfect. And so we need to go from, I'd say, 99%, which is good or very good, to great. And so we're very focused on being great and being great product and storytellers.
Are you great in sports betting? You're in about 20 states. I think you'll be in 23 states by the start of the NFL season.
Well, I won't ever say we're great in anything we do, because then I think we've given up.
Right.
And so I'd say generally we're great at nothing. Look, sports betting is coming along in a pretty fast way. A year ago, I don't know if I was I here a year ago?
Yeah, on the stage.
So I don't even know if we had taken our first bet yet online.
You had just done Tennessee, I think.
Okay. So today we're in 20 states, 19 under the Fanatics brand, one left under the PointsBet brand that will transfer to Fanatics in 12 days or 13 days, who's counting. And then we've got 2 more states that will launch in the next, short period of time, and we'll have the same geographical footprint as, FanDuel or, pretty essentially similar to the biggest, best companies. So
not market share, but footprint.
Yeah, footprint. I'm talking about geographical footprint, which is very important. I think our product's coming along in a big way. We measure, preference of choice. We measure NPS. We measure satisfaction on a daily basis, and every month the numbers get better. I think our products, it's getting pretty good. I think by the end of the year we'll be really, really good. Never great.
Okay, and then has this all shaken out in terms of the sports betting landscape the way you thought it would? How has it transpired different than when you and I were sitting back in 19, right when PASPA had been overturned?
Yeah, so I think the choice of should we do this under our own brand or buy something, I think we love the decision we made. We wanted everything to be under the Fanatics brand, because there's huge leverage of cross-selling the 110 million commerce customers we have and moving them into online sports betting and iGaming, and cross-selling the collectibles and trading card customers into iGaming and vice versa. So I think that's been a great decision. Look, we will have spent at the end of this year $1.1 billion. It sounds like a big number, but if you look at what DraftKings spent or FanDuel spent or MGM or Caesars, it's a fraction of what they've spent. And so, and the question is, ultimately, do we get real market share? And the jury's out. I love, people say to me every day, how's sports betting going? And I say, we're building a really good product. We now have the geographical footprint. Now we need to see, can we get real share? And that, I'll be able, next year, when we talk about that, I'll be able to give you an answer, have we succeeded or not? But I love those. Like, I love not knowing how the game's going to end yet, and that's fun for me.
It's interesting. You sound a little less convinced.
No. I'd say I'm more convinced than ever, but I'm also realistic. Like, until you've accomplished something, you can't celebrate it. And, when we started in merchandise in 2011, we were the third largest player, and, now we're the largest company by, by a reasonable amount. And in collectibles, I was in the business 3.5 years ago, and I'd say, we're the preeminent collectibles company today.
Right, we're going to go to that, but real quick, last question on betting.
And thank you for keeping me on track. So I'd say today what we recognize is FanDuel and DraftKings are incredible companies, and they have 80% market share, and today we have like a 2.5% market share. But I wasn't trying to have any more than, what I wanted to do was build a great product, get it out there everywhere, get cross-sell to work, and then turn on marketing. Right now, the product's really ramping. We've got the geographical footprint. We're going to be under one brand in 13 days. And I think cross-sell is showing every sign of really working. So I'm very excited, but I'd be full of shit if I said I knew what the outcome is going to be right now.
I'm glad we're not beeping out this. I'm glad it's not going live.
Yeah.
We have a few of it. All right,
that won't be me.
Okay, a couple things. Collectibles, I got to say, I never thought collectibles would be as strong of a business for you as it's turned out to be. I mean, it has grown quite dramatically, and trading cards, specifically with your baseball deal, I think they're up quite significantly. You saw this coming.
So I think in the collectibles business, it had by far and away the weakest competitors by a mile. And so if I think about how to grow an industry, if you get in an industry where there's not been a lot of innovation, that creates nothing but opportunity.
But to be fair, Panini's been a business and a competitor.
But I said if I look at like DraftKings and FanDuel,
okay,
and the competing versus them, or I look at like if someone else were in media, I look at the way Apple and YouTube and Amazon are competing with each other, and I look at like for us, we've been able to innovate from a product perspective in such a meaningful way. From a marketing perspective, where there's been like really no marketing before, there hasn't been marketing of collectibles and trading cards. From a consumer experience, the consumer experience when we entered this space 2.5 years ago was awful. It wasn't bad, it was horrible. We've done a 180 on that. The consumer experience from us today is, it's pretty damn good. And so, I could give you endless example after example after example of that, where we've made the experience so much better. So I'd say the combination of big product innovation, big product innovation, big, marketing for the first time, and really focus on the consumer, has made a huge impact. And that business, when all the rights kick in, will be a $3 billion plus business.
$3 billion. And it just seems like consumer demand for collectibles is hotter than it's been, because like you're saying, the product's better.
Yeah, I would say we've caused that.
Yeah.
And again, that's our job. Our job is to create demand. So, we've seen when we've just worked with athletes in such a unique way, we've been able to, I remember when we announced the trading card strategy, the biggest two things collectors said to me was they hated redemptions. And how many people in this room know what a redemption is in trading cards? Okay, so not a lot of hands. Right. Okay, some hands. So redemption is I bought cards and I'm owed a card from someone who's going to sign an autograph. So Tom Brady, I got a redemption card for a Tom Brady autograph. When we bought Topps had 70,000 redemptions on a business that is 1/3 of its current size. So we've tripled the business from when we bought it to where it is today in 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah, we've tripled the business. The redemption rate's down by 95%. Okay, it was the number one complaint that we got from collectors is, I'm waiting for redemptions. And so and by the way, that makes the whole customer experience, because then they're not calling you saying, where's my redemption? We were spending millions and millions of dollars just picking up phones to say, the redemption. But it was easy for us to fix that, to work with the players, to work with the union, to do that. And baseball is the best example. It was $340 million when we took it over.
I think
in 2021, and it's going to do. Last year it did 700.
Right, so it's more than doubled.
Just baseball.
Right, but it's just baseball.
And what's been a tough space.
Right.
Collectibles overall, there's been a lot of there's been headwinds. So I think it's all been about product innovation, market innovation, focus on the consumer. It's working really well.
So, Michael, new product is Fanatics Events. You're doing this, I would call it Fan Fest in New York in August. What is the mission of that, and how do you monetize that? What need are you filling?
So I had not been to a collectibles show since I'd been like a little kid. Probably between 10, 12 years old was the last time I went to a collectibles show. And I went to the National, which is spectacular that it gets between 100 and 150,000 rabid collectors. And I walked into the show and I felt like I was still in high school. Like I had gone back in the time machine, 35, 40 years. It was like a flea market. It was, so uninteresting. And then I like, well, it was great to see the enthusiasm of collectors. It was kind of depressing to see the lack of marketing and innovation and change. It felt like what I remembered as a kid going to collectible shows, just the tables out and people trading cards, which part of that's good. But you need to elevate and brand and to innovate. And I went to Comic-Con a few months later. I'm like, wow, this is awesome. Like this is insane. Like we need this for sports. And there's been no, if you think about like music festivals, I was just at Coachella this past weekend. Yep. It's a zillion people there. You look at Comic-Con. You look at South by Southwest. You say, well, what is that in sports? There's nothing there. So what we want to do is really, in a lot of simplest ways, like create the Comic-Con of sports and take it, to the biggest cities in the world. And, collectibles will be a small but important part of it, but we're going to have all the best brands and sports properties, and all the sports properties are in this with us. So,
okay.
You're going to see the best of sports brought together, the best of what you see at the Super Bowl, the hockey All-Star game, at the NBA All-Star game, at the, baseball's All-Star game, at, WWE WrestleMania.
You'll do product drops and player appearances.
But we're gonna do great activations.
Right.
Like, I'll give you an example. WWE World, which was our first event, 2 weekends ago, last weekend, I don't even know what week it is anymore. They had like the way the wrestlers get introduced, fans could come do. And the fans, there was thousands of people in line. They would come out to their favorite, kind of entrance, and they'd all get to record it. And people like flipped out because they could feel like they were a wrestler. Well, that was just one activation that WWE did that we can do at Fanatics Fest that people loved. And by the way, we had WWE World, our first event. For anyone who saw it or saw videos of it, there were a lot of people there.
How many of these Fanatic Fests can you do in a year?
Well, what could we do? I like to think we could be in 25 or 50. I'm talking like big, like we're going to our first one's in New York City, Javits.
Right. So is that an annual event or multiple?
That's an annual event. We would do it in New York once a year, but I think could you do it in LA? Could you do it in Chicago? Could you do it in London? Could you do it in China? Could you do it in Tokyo? Could you do it in the biggest cities in the world? Yes. And so our thought is like, how do we help sports globalize? What we want to do is convene the best sports fans and give them everything they'd want in one experience. The best activations from each sports property, the best launches, the best collectibles, meeting their favorite athletes. So you go to, by the way, you go to Comic-Con, you have a stage with 2,500 people in an audience to just watch different people. Like, I'm not going to ask Tom Brady to come, sign autographs. That's not something Tom Brady's going to do at a Fanatics Fest. But if I asked him to come talk in front of thousands of people about, how he won and what made him him, that's something that's really interesting for him. And the people that have reached out, everyone wants to be part of this, which is great. So we're convening sports. This is not for us about making money. This is for us about, building our brand, building, the love for sports and what each people does, making more fans and building that connection.
So the money's for charity?
For you.
Okay, thanks.
It's for you.
Okay. All right, less than 10 minutes, 8 minutes, so let's go down some quick hitters. Where is Fanatics when it comes to ticketing? Do you still want to be in the ticketing business?
We don't want to be a ticketing operator. We want to offer ticketing to our fans because we think it's something that our loyalty members want. We think it's something that we want to reward customers with. So think about us maybe working with the best ticketing company in the world. How do we give tickets to our fans but not be a ticket operator?
And not one that's under Department of Justice investigation?
I would prefer not.
Okay.
Doesn't sound fun, by the way.
Where is Fanatics in media?
Fanatics is 100% focused on our three businesses. We have three businesses: commerce,
right,
collectibles, gaming. We think we can do, we think that could, make us, one of the most important companies in the world, and we want to stay 100% focused on those three businesses. For us, media is, whatever we might do in media in small ways, how do we get, how do we help build the connectivity between those three businesses?
Questions from the audience here, Michael. What is your vision for sports art?
Look, I think sports art's a good category. I can tell you that I never owned art before I got into the collectibles business. then between having a few more walls to fill up and like wanting to, figure out what I could take from art and put it in collectibles, I've become like an avid art collector. And it's making our collectibles business better. By the way, we're gonna have some massive artists doing big collabs. I'll tease it right here and tell you. There's some of the most famous artists in the world who could be doing big collabs coming with our collectibles business. Again, another way to innovate and grow the category. But I think sports art's a big category. I think it's interesting. And I'd also love to see some of the biggest artists doing more, like when I see Jonas Wood, who's a great artist here in Los Angeles, and he's, painted trading cards before, like that gets me super excited.
Personally speaking, what's your most prized collectible?
Living my dream every day, I don't know.
That's a collectible.
It's a collectible.
Okay, all right. How do you think Jordan Brand has remained cool?
I'll tell you what it is, actually. I just saw, someone sent me on Sotheby's, someone sent me on, no one will get this one, but someone sent me on Sotheby's last week. So I made basketball shoes in 1995. It was like my first real business.
GSI?
Before GSI. And Karl Malone was my, we made the Karl Malone, it was the mailman show, the year he won MVP. And somehow those shoes ended up on Sotheby's, and someone sent me the link, and I bought them, and they're like sitting in my office. It's like memories from 1995.
That could be your most prized collectible easily.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah.
This is how do you think Jordan Brand has remained cool from boomers, millennials, and Gen Z, as typically what your parents wear immediately is not cool? So how is that brand resonating?
Yeah, well, first of all, what Jordan Brand's done is amazing, right? They've gone from $2 to $7 billion in the last, short period of time. I think they've had the right leadership. Nike's very focused on product and marketing, and they're very good at product and storytelling. I think Travis has been incredibly important to, Jordan Brand. Look, after Michael, it's, I think Travis is the most important person in that brand. He's pretty cool. He makes great. Yep. By the way, what do people always want? The Travis I'm wearing right now, by the way. I think it's been, right team, right focus on product and marketing, and right people supporting the brand.
What does a woman what's a woman in sports have to do to get invited to the white party?
We have many of them. We have many women.
No, she didn't say that.
Oh, a new person?
Yeah.
Yeah, they got to make it through. You're running security. So.
No, that's not right. That's not true. Oh, anyway, okay, so we got a couple other ones right here. This is you're valued at like $33 billion. You're going to correct that?
Well, no, we were actually valued at 31, and I'd say we're a little bit less right now.
Okay.
If you look at it, but
okay.
Whatever.
So only 31.
Mid-20s.
Mid-20s. But how do you keep your energy going? What is next? Why do you continue to need to grow this insatiable desire to be on top?
I'll tell everyone a little bit of a personal story. I watched the Nike Air movie about whenever it came out. And I don't watch much TV. I don't watch really many movies. And when I watched that movie, and obviously we know a lot of it's it's made to be a movie. But when I got done watching that movie, I thought shit, he's 85 now, I'm 51. And while that feels old, I'm gonna do this the rest of my life. And I have so much fun. I have the greatest job on the planet. It's not a job, it's I just get to live out my dream every day. I'm working with the smartest people, around great people. I'm learning, I'm growing, doing interesting things. So for me, I am literally working the hardest I've ever worked. I am working 18 hours a day, 350 days a year, and it's a blast. I'm honored to be able to do it. So I'd say my intensity is the most it's ever been, but I love it. I'm
and you
lucky
can
to
keep
do it.
the pace?
No problem.
No problem.
No problem.
Someone said you called them at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. in the morning and wanted to chat. That's a little odd.
That's normal.
That's normal for you?
That's not odd.
So question here, how many hours a week do you work?
18 times 6.5.
And do you ever just unwind? Decompress?
I'm not good at that.
You're not good at that. You're always moving.
It has to be. It has to be I get a few moments of the year, and then Christmas holiday break. I'm good at kind of chilling out a little bit. But it could be the most I could relax would be the hangover after the white party.
Okay.
That is I will tell you that is I'm not very effective at work the next day.
And
I say July 5th. If anyone wants to beat me in competition, come at me July 5th. That's your day.
Every photo of that party, you're drinking something. You must have a stinger, buddy.
It doesn't feel good.
Okay.
And by the way, I try to put down 90% of the shots, but if you drink 10% of the shots you're giving, you're still in bad shape.
All right, quick hitters. Will athletes use their voice during the election?
Yes, for sure.
And is that a good thing?
Look, I think, more than ever, I think, whether athletes, celebrities, artists, prominent people, I think they're speaking on issues they care about, and I think they should be able to.
What is the biggest growth sport in your mind?
Biggest growth sport in my mind? Well, we look at it as percents, dollars. I mean, what's wild, I'll tell you honestly, and I know you got them tomorrow, what's going on with WWE is insane.
You think
so?
so?
Like if I look at the growth in our WWE business, and it's a big business already, it's absolutely insane. So obviously, look, NFL is a multi-billion-dollar business for us today. Baseball is a multi-billion-dollar business for us today. If you look, collectively within, our overall business. But if you just talk about growth percents, what's going on with WWE is spectacular.
Is there a sport that's not growing the way you'd like it to grow?
Every sport is not going
So
away. I want more growth from every sport.
Okay. Biggest story in sports business you're watching most closely and why?
Biggest story in sports I'm watching and why? I think, look, it's obviously fascinating to watch all the media stuff, and I just like to learn and be like a student of it. I think that's the biggest story I'm watching, and the reason why is you just want to learn from, look, you were all over this. We looked at a lot of things in media in 2021, 2022, and I think, the conclusion we got to were there were a lot of big companies with a lot of money that had to figure a lot of things out, and we should just watch. I think that was the right conclusion.
Right.
And, I think, you learn a lot studying people. Like, the biggest thing for me, and I think people know this about me, like, and everyone always thinks I'm being self-deprecating. Like, I'm a horrible reader. Like, I can barely read. I really did barely make it out of high school. Like, I'm a sponge, so you like to just watch. And, like, watching what's going on in media is fun. Then you take those learnings, you put them into your business.
And the person in sports or entertainment or media you're watching most closely right now and why is who?
It's got to be some of these. It's got to be some of these young rookies. It's fascinating. What's interesting about our business, it used to always be about the stars, and now that we have had such a big collectibles business, you're starting with people much earlier. So I probably love watching like C.J. Stroud or like Victor and like what's going on with them, because you're there in the beginning of you're there in the early days with them, and that's so fun for me to kind of see that and see it develop. And I think we also get to build relationships much earlier in the days right now. Caitlin Clark, amazing to see what she's doing. I mean, that's fun for me. And you're rooting for people in a big way.
And what we need to do in this, people in this room, as a sports industry, what do we need to do a better job of?
So I'd say at Fanatics, what we need to do a better job of, but I think it could be universal, is and we're actually, again, it's a super intimate thing here because we haven't even rolled it out to our employees yet. But we are, really, over the next month, we're going to roll out what our brand purpose is. And in simple terms, it's really to enhance, the fan experience in everything that we do. And I think we need to always ask ourselves that question, because the answer is, if you ask yourself that question, the answer is no, then we shouldn't do it. I think we need to be unrelenting at improving, the fan experience in everything we do, because at the end of the day, without fans, we got no. By the way, we got no business without fans, and sports fans are the best. They're the most passionate fans in the world. So we got to make sure everything we do for them is better, and we failed at that in certain things that we've done. And so I'd say, really, like just saying it, but actually doing it.
The theme this morning was improving the fan experience and improving customer service to fans across the board.
And you got to make sure saying it's one thing, doing it's another thing. And when you do something, you say, is this, when we took Travis Scott and did that collab last week, did that make the fan experience better? And I think the answer was yes, but we got to ask ourselves about everything we're doing and challenge ourselves to do that. And, I think there's some dumb stuff we've done historically that hasn't done that. And I think if we put it through that lens, we'll make better decisions.
You told me one time your job is to prevent dumb shit from happening, right?
By the way, I swear to God, we had something so stupid happen a couple months ago. It was unspeakable. And I want to go to social media to say, my job and your job is to stop dumb shit from happening. That I knew I'd embarrass the people that were involved with it, because they would know exactly what I was saying, so I let it go.
That's good. Sometimes you just got to let things go, brother.
Every once in a while.
Give it up for Madkour Rubin. We appreciate you
Thanks.
making another appearance here. See you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of On Stage. If you enjoyed this conversation with Madkour Rubin, be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with colleagues who want an inside look at how Fanatics is changing the game and sports business. Here's a closing thought starter. Rubin talked about both the highs of scaling and the lessons from stumbles. In your organization, how do you make space to learn from challenges while still pushing for bold growth? I'd love to hear your perspective. Send me a note at tbloom@sportsbusinessjournal.com. We'll be back next week with another exclusive conversation from a leader shaping the future of sports. Until next time, stay tuned and stay ahead. This is On Stage.